Hello everybody, here I am in Neovim, and I'm looking over what was once my vimrc, but which is now my init.vim. And this is the command that is still working to blogify my journal, to slice my journal file into lots of individual files. And I'm going to simplify it, but I'm also in Neovim as opposed to Vim. And the output was never really that good from it, and I've been learning that this command that I use, :execute, under Neovim, :terminal is the preferred way of doing it to get an interactive command line interface. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to start making incompatibilities because I might go back to Vim someday. I'm only on Neovim for CoPilot. I like my vimrc to travel with me for life. So the first thing I do to hardwire this to Neovim disconnects me from the timeless Vim world. So I like Neovim, but I don't like it enough to customize my vimrc to it. In the Lua language, I don't know. I'm going to put that off for a while too. So I needed to do my testing. It turned out that the output was just scrolling by way too fast, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to go into insert mode here, and then I'm going to do Control V and then the enter key, which is going to put something that looks like $M in there. But what that's actually doing is it's running this hello world program, and hitting enter at the end of it, and that's in these single quotes, which are in these double quotes, which is on this @q macro. But to show you what it's going to be doing, I'll just scroll over here to a command line where here's the print hello world, right? I'll throw one more shell up there. I'm in the Skite directory, cd Skite ls. There's my hello world program, and I just go python hello.py, and it just prints hello world, right? Basic hello world from the command line. And so that should work that way from inside of Neovim as well, even without having interactive mode. You see the difference between execute, which I'm using, and :terminal, which is their preferred method, is whether it's interactive or not. So you can see I just type this in. Now to make that take, I have a macro set up. I have a key binding. For me it's function F4 that does it, and that just does this command, source. That's another way of doing these things, right? You're executing commands essentially, but the command I'm executing happens to be one that executes something externally, in this case a hello world program. So I do that @q. I don't know if it did it. @q. Well, there's the problem. Okay, yeah, missing quote. So there's something that I got wrong here. Here's my single quotes round stuff. I wonder if the this code might go to the right of the single quote. That might be it. I'm not sure. Function F4. And now I have the new macro, so @q, and there it is, @q. See how it just blinks by so quick? That is not good. That is not good. That's kind of what happens up here on the command that outputs my entire blog. You know, I see the output kind of accumulating up here, and then it just blinks away. There is absolutely no feedback. I mean, I know it's non-interactive mode, but how non-interactive can you get? &q, and I can do &&, that'll rerun it. And you can just kind of see a little hello.py message coming out there. So it occurred to me, if I just did the one tiny concession of getting rid of that automatic hitting of enter, and now I do function F4 to load that back in memory, right? Okay, now I do the macro at Q, and look how it stays there for a second. Well, it's just staying there. It's staying there until I hit enter to actually run it. And then it runs, you see the output of it, and it sits there waiting until you hit enter to continue. Now you have some output. Now it's not interactive mode, but this is quite a bit of interactivity. You see the output, and it waits for you to release it. That is such better behavior for macros. So the only modification that I have to do for Neovim is if I do Shift 4 to jump to the end of this, I just have to get rid of that automatic hitting of enter, escape, save, reload it back into memory with function F4, which is just this source command. Now if I go to B1, my public blog, I should be able to do one of these generating site generation things. Boy, it's a really long one. I'll give it a headline so there'll be a before and after. Let's see, what was this? This was like me figuring, that's not that long. This was me figuring out this issue. It turns out that Neovim's I knew what I wanted to talk about. :execute command doesn't even show output in Neovim if, and I'll just put $M because anyone who does this macro stuff will understand that as the hitting the enter key at the end of a macro to actually make an external command run. And then I'm going to do, I guess, tilde W, and then I can do the period W period. Yeah, there's a, yeah, I want to do word, so it's word tilde, word tilde, word tilde, and that's the way you do all your initial caps. I mean, you know, I'm no master of this. I've been at it for a while, and still I'm no master of this. There's just so much to learn under the VI-based editors. It's crazy. And that pretty much does it. And now I can test this theory by doing @p, which is my normal release system. Now the command is sitting there, and it's waiting for me to go ahead, and that gives you a chance to see what it is that I'm really doing here. I'm executing some commands. The clear is probably not necessary. That was to make it look good under Vim, but if it's only giving these couple of lines to it, there's no reason to clear it first. I can probably get rid of the clear in the macro, but it's going to be executing Python, the Skype program, which is the blog slice and dice system, and then a whole bunch of output, which I'll eventually, and then feeding in the current directory it's in, I believe. Yeah, it's some interesting stuff going on there. And now it's going to do the work, and if the output is any different, yeah, output's not going to be any different. It's still going to be invisible and in the background. And when queued up amounts, you know, when it reaches some cache limit or something along those lines, bam, it shows you everything it's generated thus far, and then sits there locked up doing that again, waiting for that cache to fill, and then it'll blast it out and show you again. That is if it's not completely finished, at which time it just disappears and you can't even see the final output. But that should be different now because I got rid of that automatic hitting of enter at the end. So now it should be just like the Hello World program, and sit there, and we'll see like the final git commands. It's just that it's really not that quick. So I sit here a little bit while it goes through those commands invisibly in the background. I'm not thrilled with that. In addition to removing those, so now there we go. In addition to removing that enter at the end, which now makes it sit here and I can go, oh look, it did its thing, and it's a little more like my Vim experience, I can also look into changing the buffer display even on non-interactive output. But that now, I should still be able to give you a before and after. We pop over here, we open Chrome. Chrome always has my website sitting there, along with the links to see the GitHub rendering of my site. So whenever I do a git push like that, I gotta wait through this Jekyll, GitHub Pages, Jekyll, Liquid Template System, Static Site Generator, SSG is the acronym. So there's a lot of lovely acronyms here, and it's under the Microsoft, set of things, right? I guess it's about $100 per year for the developer tax. That's to have unlimited private repos. Back when I signed up, it was to have private repos at all, but now it gives you some other level of access, probably including a bunch of these renderings, because you can see I've rendered out my site a friggin' lot of times. Number 1457. So every time I do a git push, it's one of these. It goes through this whole, I guess they call this CI, continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI, CD, something like that. Continuous deployment, right? Because it says deployment right there. So this is an example of that, and it's very customizable. You can go in there and see the actions, replace it out. That's how people swap out, say, a more Python-y Hibernate. No, it's not Hibernate. I'm thinking back from the Java days. That goes back a long time. Hibernate and Cocoon. So I've been playing with systems that do this whole static site generating thing for a long time. Back to the Java world, much less the JavaScript world. So this is one that I'm really happy with, and it's built into GitHub, except it's a Ruby technology, and but what does it matter? It's integrated, and you lean into the strengths, right? So I wanted to give a before and after. Maybe I can before that turns green. I go into my blog. The last headline up is Neovim's execute command doesn't even show. Yeah, that's the one I was just rendering. So that's this that I'm working on. And so I guess I have that solved now, except for changing the buffer of the output. But I'm really happy now with keeping my vimrc, now my init.vim, completely Vim compatible, even though I'm in Neovim. So b space init, tab, we jump to it, and I removed it from that, and so this one here is no longer necessary, except I am going to be experimenting with an interesting new system, but I think I might move that to a live stream video to come after this. I'll stop recording this one, call this baked, and then return to you a little bit later tonight with a live stream of a really interesting process. I'm going to redo my blog slice and dice system, the thing that takes these really long markdown files and turns them into all the separate files that comprise an online blog system like this. So it's really simplistic right now. Like, I'm not doing paging of it's just every article I ever wrote since I created this system back in, I guess, August of 2021. So, I'm going to tend to all that crazy stuff like pagination and, all those things you do for a blog. But this is a homegrown blogging system that takes one long file, reverse chronological, where all these are things I scroll through over here, and it slices and dices them into all these separate files for the Jekyll blog system. That's what this line does. But I'm going to be re-implementing it much better with what I know today, and keep all the files and URLs compatible. No links will break. but it will be just a lot nicer. I'll be able to do more things like add the meta descriptions, which I'm going to have OpenAI write for me for each blog post, and those kinds of projects are coming up real soon, so join me.